So today we're diving into the incredible life of Rabbeinu Yonah Gerondi, a giant of the 13th century who's known to history simply as the pious.
And for good reason. I mean, he is remembered as one of Judaism's all-time great masters of ethics, really a moral compass for generations.
Because this isn't just a story about a pious scholar. It's the story of how a massive crisis of conscience completely transformed him and led to the creation of an absolute masterpiece. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in 13th century Spain. It was a golden age for Jewish thought, for sure. But it was also a time of some pretty intense, bitter intellectual conflict. And Rabbeinu Yonah of Gerona was right at the heart of all of it. This guy wasn't some scholar off in an ivory tower. He was brilliant, and he was deeply connected. He was actually family to the other giant of the era, the Rambam, both his cousin and his in-law. And his influence was just huge. He went on to teach the next generation of leaders, including the legendary Rashba. Now, to really get a handle on this guy, you have to understand his education, because it was this incredible blend of two very powerful and honestly very different ways of thinking. You see, he had this totally unique synthesis going on. He studied in France, soaking up the razor-sharp analytical methods of the Tosophists, all about logic and legal debate, but at the same time, he embraced this deep emotional piety from the German pietists, a movement called Chassidut Ashkenaz, which was all about the inner spiritual world. It was this powerful combo of head and heart that would pretty much define his entire life. And that unique background, well, it put him on a collision course with the fiercest intellectual battle of medieval Judaism, the massive controversy over the philosophical works of Maimonides. As a passionate young man, we're talking in his 20s here, Rabbeinu Yonah became a key player, a lieutenant really, in the anti-Maimonidean camp. You have to understand, his own teacher saw Maimonides' philosophy as this dangerous foreign idea that threatened the core of the faith. So what did he do? He sent his star student Rabbeinu Yonah as an envoy through friends to rally support for banning these controversial books. And Rabbeinu Yonah was all in, totally driven by this sincere, zealous conviction. And things escalated with just shocking speed. Around 1232, the ban comes out. Rabbeinu Yonah travels to France to whip up support. Of course, the pro-Maimonidean scholars fight back with their own powerful counterban, but then the whole thing just spirals out of control and ends in a way nobody could have imagined. In 1233, in a public square in Paris, the church burned Maimonides' books. Just try to imagine that, the sight of holy Jewish books being burned by Christian authorities. It was a horrifying, traumatic turning point, not just for the conflict, but for Rabbeinu Yonah's entire life. His change of heart was seismic. According to a letter from one of his students, Rabbeinu Yonah was just shattered. He saw the book burning as a sign from heaven that they had gone way, way too far. He reportedly declared, "I admit with heart and soul Moses and his Torah are true, and we are the liars. I accept upon myself to go and prostrate myself on his grave." Wow. So he publicly declared his regret. He vowed to make this incredible penitential journey all the way to Maimonides' grave in Israel, just to ask for forgiveness, a journey, tragically, he never got to complete. And in that moment, his life's mission just completely flipped. He went from being a fighter, a polemicist, to being a penitent.
And it was out of this personal fire, this intense crisis, that he created his most enduring work, Shaarei Teshuvah, The Gates of Repentance.
And this is where it gets so fascinating. Look at how different his approach to repentance or teshuvah is from Maimonides. Maimonides gives you the system, the legal process, right? It's like a clear intellectual checklist for getting right with God. But Rabbeinu Yonah, he describes a deep psychological journey of the heart. It's all about grief, shame, humility, an ongoing process of inner change that's rooted in pure emotion. His book lays out these 20 principles of repentance, and just look at the first few. They are all internal emotional states. It doesn't start with an action. It starts with regret, charta, then abandoning the sin, and then deep, profound grief, yagon. For him, real change doesn't start with a checklist. It starts way down deep inside with the stirring of your soul. And he comes up with a stunning psychological insight. He says that being uncertain if you did something wrong is actually more dangerous than knowing you did. Now, why would that be? Well, think about it. If you know you messed up, That certainty forces you to confront yourself. It brings the pain and regret that you need to start the process of repentance. But uncertainty, that lets you rationalize, explain it away, and you never even begin the journey. You just stay stuck. And that kind of profound understanding of human nature, which was born from his own painful journey, is what cemented his legacy, not as a fighter, but as a healer of the soul. So in the end, his legacy is defined by the transformation that came out of that awful controversy. Shaarei Teshuvah is still a cornerstone of Jewish ethical literature. It's a guide to self-improvement, written by a man who didn't just teach it, he lived it. So he's not remembered as the zealot who fought Maimonides. He's remembered as Rabbeinu Yonah Gerondi, the pious. And what you should take away from all this is that his book isn't just some theoretical guide. It's the personal, lived testimony of a man who took his greatest public mistake and turned it into his most profound and lasting teaching. So the question for us really is, how does knowing his story change how we read his work? It transforms it from a book about repentance into a book that is repentance itself.